Hello and welcome to day 2 of the Kent and Medway Enterprise Advisor Network International Women's Week. My name is Rebecca Shaxted and I am the Ask Delivery Coordinator working at CXK, delivering apprenticeship advice and guidance to all schools across Kent and Medway free of charge, focusing on apprenticeships, traineeships and T-levels. And I've got the great pleasure of hosting today's event. So this week is all about raising aspirations, motivation and challenging stereotypical thinking of women in the world of work. So our aim is to inspire young people of Kent and Medway through a fantastic 90-minute broadcast consisting of recorded interviews, live speakers, and you will hear from inspirational role models from a range of industries about their experiences and journeys. So the theme of today's broadcast is Inspire, and we're thinking about those who inspire you and also those who may look up to you and your experiences too. Alongside this event, we're running a social media campaign through the Kent and Medway Enterprise Advisor Network LinkedIn page and Instagram page, showcasing inspirational quotes from women in business, as well as more inspiring employer videos. All events from this week will be available to view after the event on the Kent and Medway World of Work YouTube channel. And to start today, I would like to introduce you to Rosie, who is an apprentice. And before I go in any more detail, I will let Rosie get started. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Rebecca. Thanks everyone for joining. So I'm Rosie Harvey. I am a legal apprentice. I qualified as a paralegal in December. And I started my solicitor apprenticeship in January, so I'm a first year solicitor apprentice. Next slide, please. So a bit about me and where I came from. I'm from a small town near Tunbridge Wells called Crowborough. We have one secondary school in my area and that's where I went, and I did my A-levels at their college. I actually first wanted to go into medicine. Hence why I did biology, chemistry and psychology at A-levels. But halfway through that I changed my mind and I wanted to go back to law. I did have an offer to study law at Oxford Brookes University, but I turned that down and started looking at apprenticeships instead. Next slide, please. So my apprenticeship is with Cripps Pemberton Greenish. This is alongside BPP University Law School, and I started in September 2018 on the paralegal scheme. With this, I did the English legal system, client care, land law, residential conveyancing, and tort law. Now that I've started on the solicitor apprenticeship, it's 5 years long. Normally 7, but because I've done the paralegal one, it is cut shorter. So to come, I have contract law, criminal law, public law. You can see the list, it's pretty long, and I'm hoping to qualify in 2025. Next slide, please. So I luckily in my apprenticeship get to go around lots of different teams within the firm. This is quite unusual for legal apprenticeships. Quite a lot of the time you're in one place, but fortunately for me, I get to see all aspects of the firm. I'm currently in corporate mergers and acquisitions, which is basically buying and selling businesses. And coming up, I'll be in real estate, which is property law, commercial and private, private wealth and disputes. There's a range of responsibility in every single area. No team or workload is the same. And that's one of the reasons why I've loved doing this apprenticeship, is because I've had such a variety of things to do. And I'll talk about the other extra activities later on. Next slide, please. So this is just a little bit of a taste of what you can be doing in a legal apprenticeship. My first few weeks I was in the reprographics team. I went on to compliance and all our anti-money laundering regulations. I've been in specialist disputes, and I've also been in the debt recovery team prior to being in corporate mergers and acquisitions. And this ranges from all kinds of tasks, from court forms to drafting legal documents. As an apprentice, I feel a massive part of the team wherever I've been. And the common misconception is that you're not just the tea maker, you really are part of the legal team. Next slide, please. So I was asked to prepare some hints and tips for people considering apprenticeships, and these were the ones that came to me first. The first one being confident. My motto is that if you think that you can do it, then everyone else will think you can do it. And it's not about knowing everything, it's also about being confident enough to say that you don't understand something and for asking for help when you need it. Give all that you can and you will definitely get something back. As with anything, the more effort you put in, the more this is recognised and the more opportunities come your way. Apprenticeships are definitely not easy, and I think there's a common theme when I talk to people that it's the easy way out, and it's definitely not. I'm still doing my law degree at the moment, as long as at the same time as working 4 days a week, and it's a massive time management skill to be able to do that. So it's definitely not an easy option. Ask questions was definitely my next bit of advice. Apprenticeships are still quite a new thing, especially in my area. This firm that I'm working for were the first legal firm to offer apprenticeships in my area, and if you don't understand what you're signing up for, you definitely need to ask the questions, because it's your future and you're perfectly entitled to quiz everyone about what you're stepping into. Trust your gut, because I was actually told many times that I was so silly for turning down my university offer. I was told that I wouldn't like it, that I would hate it, and that's definitely not what I felt at all. I went in there the first day and I knew that's exactly where I wanted to be. So trust your gut feelings. And you definitely aren't alone. I know that apprenticeships aren't spoken about enough, but there are so many people out there to help you, this group being one of them, and there's always support and there's always someone to answer your questions. Next slide, please. So the other opportunities that I spoke about, I just wanted to cover before I let you move on to the next person, because a lot of the time I get students say to me that they don't want to miss out on going to university, and that there's the social life aspect that you're going to miss out on, and that is definitely not what I've experienced at all. I work in a massive firm where I meet loads of different people. We have social events all year round. There's charity groups, there's wellbeing groups, there's award ceremonies. There are so many opportunities for you to get involved in that's not just doing your day-to-day apprenticeship work. So next slide, please. I think that's everything from me. Does anyone have any questions?
I just want to say thank you so much, Rosie.
That's okay.
So as I mentioned right in the introduction, I deliver the Apprenticeship Support and Knowledge Programme across Kent and Medway. So I'm going to schools and I'm giving predominantly apprenticeship advice and guidance. So I'm going into schools, you know, and even you said yourself, they aren't spoken about enough, and they don't have the ambassador network that you might find with universities. You know, you don't have those students that come in and sit at careers fairs. And one of the biggest questions I get, and I do run some sessions on these processes, but there's nothing better than hearing it from the apprentices themselves. So I just want to ask you, what was your recruitment process?
So I actually stumbled across my apprenticeship by a complete chance. I was just walking down my college corridor and I saw an apprenticeship sign that just says legal. And I was like, oh, that's quite interesting. No one's explained this to me. So I had a look, I looked them up on the website. It was a really simple application process, a CV, why you wanted to go into law. If you got through that application process, you then went through for a test day. I think there were about 12 people at my test day. And this was basically an entire day at the firm doing different activities. There was a really short written test, basic maths and English. And then we had some survival tests with the other candidates, which was really fun, but nothing that was scary at all. Everyone was really lovely. And yeah, it was a great day. Really good.
Fabulous. Okay, so you're looking to complete in 2025. So here's the next question, and I get this a lot. Do you think you'll stay with your current employer, or do you think you might branch out? Have you got any kind of ideas or plans?
It's quite a long way in the future. I'm kind of trying to take each day as it comes at the moment.
Yeah.
But I absolutely love working at Crypt, and I can't see myself leaving anytime soon. They're so supportive, they're lovely, they're such a great place to work. And I think that the legal profession has quite a common thought that it's just complete stress and horrendous hours and all of that stuff, but it's not at all. You find the right place, everywhere has different work ethics. So I'd say research where you're going, look at them up, ask questions. Again, when you're at your interview, it's perfectly fine to ask them questions because it's your future and you need to feel right where you're going.
So you completed your A levels and your paralegal apprenticeship. What level was that?
So I actually had 2 awards from my paralegal scheme. I had a level 3 paralegal qualification and a level 4 certificate in legal services.
Wow. So another conversation we have with lots of people who go and do their A levels in school is sometimes it's worth looking at those level 3 opportunities because they have the opportunity, you know, to take you up to that degree level which you're currently doing. Thank you so much, Rosie. And if you could just stay on the line just while Emma's presenting, because we'll want to give some people some extra time just to maybe pop some questions in the question box or the chat box, and then after Emma's presentation hopefully we can maybe bring you back together if we have some questions. Thank you so much. I'll pass over to Emma now.
Hi, okay, can you see me okay?
We can see you perfectly.
Okay, perfect. So I'm Emma and I'm a pharmaceutical material scientist at Pfizer. So normally in previous years, pre-COVID, I've had to spend a lot of time introducing Pfizer. Not that many people know who we are because the origins of the company are US based. However, obviously Pfizer has been in the news a lot recently to do with the vaccine. So obviously I hope that most of you would have an understanding of who Pfizer are. So just kind of a brief description. We are a pharmaceutical company, so generally we focus on research and development. So recently Pfizer has split off to become a solely research and development focused company. So this is focusing on kind of bringing new medicines to the market, so such as the vaccine, bringing that vaccine to the market, but then also kind of bringing a number of other therapeutics to the market in kind of areas such as oncology, so treating cancer, and lots of other different kind of project bases that we work on at Pfizer to kind of get new medicines to the market. So next slide, please. So a little bit about my journey. So to my current job at the moment as a pharmaceutical material scientist. So I did study A levels before I did my apprenticeship. So I also have done an apprenticeship. So I studied 3 A levels, maths, chemistry and history at Exeter College. Obviously I am based in Kent now. So for any of those of you who know where Exeter is, that's actually down in Devon. So I did take a step to move for my apprenticeship. So I moved from very rural Devon, so I lived on a farm, up to do my apprenticeship because I wanted to work at a globally recognised company. So I thought that that was a really good option for me. So I studied my A levels, and at the time I thought, oh yeah, I'm definitely going to go to university. My college really only told us about university at the time. I know now there are a lot of wonderful people that promote apprenticeships, but at the time that I was making my decisions, that was not kind of shown as an option, or if apprenticeships were talked about as an option, maybe it was only like level 2 apprenticeships that were talked about as an option, and there was kind of quite a big stigma to this. So to be honest, I can't exactly remember how I found out that science apprenticeships existed, but I remember finding out and thinking this is definitely something that I want to pursue, because I think at the moment the job market's really saturated with people that just have degrees, and it's kind of like, how do you get the edge on top of that? So I think the edge for me was to make sure that I'm getting sufficient experience at the same time to kind of make sure that I can get a job in a future job market. So in terms of kind of like my application and where I went from there, so I applied to lots and lots of different companies. I was not limited on location, so I was kind of applying nationwide. So I applied to a lot of other pharmaceutical companies as well at the same time. I was lucky enough to get multiple offers at multiple different companies. However, the other offers that I received were in biological sciences, whereas I have more of an affinity towards chemistry. So decided to go to Pfizer because of one, that option, and also kind of they are very research and development based, and that's definitely something that I kind of wanted to align with at the time. So I started in 2017 as a higher laboratory scientist, so that level is level 5, which corresponds to a foundation degree. And I completed this apprenticeship in August 2020. So I completed my level 5 apprenticeship. That took 3 years to get my foundation degree. So recently, when I finished my level 5, I did get offered a full-time job at Pfizer as a pharmaceutical material scientist. However, I'm also still an apprentice, so I'm currently finishing off my bachelor's degree in applied chemical sciences, and I should be completed approximately by the end of this year for my bachelor's degree. Could you move on to the next slide, please? So a little bit about kind of the organisation and what I do and where I fit within the organisation. So I work within kind of a very large group called Pharmaceutical Sciences Small Molecules. So Pharmaceutical Sciences focuses on all stages of development from the process of getting a drug to the market. So at that point, you kind of have the active pharmaceutical ingredient, as we call it, which is the kind of compound which you are trying to turn into a tablet or an IV, and kind of the focus of pharmaceutical sciences is to kind of develop the process in order to make that active, and then also develop the dosage form. So for example, I've shown pictures of tablets and IVs. So specifically within pharmaceutical sciences small molecule, I work within drug product design. So the role of drug product design is kind of explicitly to work towards taking that active and putting it into a dosage form, so in tablets or capsules. This can be split down further, so I do work within material sciences of that, because obviously I am a pharmaceutical material scientist, but I'll discuss a little bit more about the specifics of my job role in a minute. So I've just shown a diagram about kind of where I fit in terms of the development process. So discovery is kind of more the biology related step, and this occurs kind of prior to where I fit within the cycle. So generally discovery for Pfizer is conducted in America, and then development is conducted across kind of the American sites, the UK site, and there are some other sites globally, worldwide. So we kind of fall across the clinical trial stages of development. Could you move on to the next slide, please? So a little bit about kind of specifically my role. So I work with different crystal structures. So I work with a concept called polymorphism. Apologies for those of you who don't like science, because this might be a bit of a science lesson. But basically, molecules can exist as kind of multiple different crystal structures. So my job is to screen for the different crystal structures and to kind of assess their properties, as they can kind of impact the dosage form that we're going for. So for example, if you're doing an IV, you need to make sure that it dissolves, and you need to make sure that your tablets dissolve if you're doing tablets. So there are kind of lots of processes that you need to kind of understand in terms of that. So I screen for the different forms and then work towards making the most stable ingredient. So kind of how we refer to this when we're talking about it kind of in a simplistic manner is that we kind of refer to it like brick walls. So basically, imagine like a molecule to be a brick. You can pack your bricks in kind of multiple different ways. So for example, I've shown the 2 different brick walls. You can pack them as you do on the left. You can also pack them as you do on the right, albeit I haven't actually seen any brick walls that look like that, but molecules can do exactly the same thing. So basically, we can get different crystal structures, and then we need to assess them. So could you move on to the next slide, please? So a little bit about kind of a day in the life of kind of what I've done as a science apprentice and kind of where I've progressed. I would say there's a lot of progression in general as a science apprentice, but I'm going to keep this specific to kind of what I've done. So obviously, as an apprentice, 80% of my time is my work-based learning, and 20% of the time is my progression towards qualification. So up until August of last year, that was progression towards my foundation degree. And at the moment, that is progression towards my bachelor's degree. So I do one day a week of university work. So For me, this has always been virtual, regardless of COVID. I've always been a virtual learner, but I know that current science apprentices at Pfizer now have switched to a different university, so they're on a day release program non-COVID. So generally I take Friday and I work from home to do my university work, and this involves going through kind of modules similarly to that of the course that you would study at university and complete assignments and exams. As Rosie said, apprenticeships are not easy. You have to complete your exams at the same time that you are completing kind of 4 days a week in work. So for example, I've just come out of an exam session. I had an exam last Thursday and I've just come out of one this morning, and it is quite stressful because you are still having to do work at the same time as that. So apprenticeships can be really, really rewarding in terms of the experience you can get, but I'd say definitely don't think they are the easy option. And then similarly to probably most other science courses, I did a dissertation for my foundation degree, and I will also be doing a dissertation for my bachelor's degree. So a little bit about what I do in the 80% of my time, so the time that I am working at Pfizer. So generally this involves running experiments and reporting results to the project team. So I think when I started, there's kind of full training on kind of the instrumentation and techniques that you will be utilizing throughout your job role. And I think I could run the experiments to begin with, but maybe didn't have the full understanding of the science. That's somewhere that I've kind of been really working towards progressing. So I think one of the kind of key things that I've developed across my apprenticeship, my first apprenticeship, and now continuing to develop across my second apprenticeship, is making sure that you can utilize these results to direct the project teams where they should go and provide insight into where you think future experiments should be conducted. So utilizing the scientific knowledge that you've built to kind of understand why the results are showing why they are and what future things you think would be needed to progress the project. So there is a lot of responsibility progression. I know I've progressed a lot in terms of the responsibility that I've been given. So there's kind of operational and scientific growth. So kind of operational growth for me. So I'm a lab coordinator of the biggest lab for material sciences, which is a bit of a challenge sometimes because there's lots of people that work in there, and we're currently undergoing lab refurbishment. So kind of making sure that we can work around things like that is something which is kind of key to my role. There's also opportunities for like instrument ownership. So a lot of apprentices that I know, and I'd say myself to an extent, are the subject matter experts in the instruments that they use. We are the people that are using the instruments all the time. I know apprentices, I've been at Pfizer for 3.5 years now. I know apprentices that have been there for 7 years, who have done a level 3 and then their degree apprenticeship. So a lot of people are instrument owners. They are the experts in their field. So I would definitely say you're not kind of viewed in a way that you're inferior to any other colleagues. You're definitely treated in a really good way as an apprentice. And I think one of the key things that I enjoy as an apprentice is technology projects. So I really love kind of expanding my scientific horizon. So I did a technology project which was adapting a method from literature, which I managed to get to work, which was very nice, and I presented a poster on it. I won't go into that too much in detail because there'll be a lot of words that people probably don't understand. But yeah, there are a lot of opportunities for scientific growth, and hopefully in the future I would really like to kind of publish some scientific work. So hopefully with my dissertation we might be able to work towards publishing a paper, which is something that scientifically I would really be looking forward to in terms of kind of expanding kind of my position. I think that's all my slides. If you have any questions, I would be happy to answer them.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Emma. So the first question that I'm going to ask is just because obviously, as I mentioned earlier, it's one that I get all the time. What was your recruitment process, and specifically for yourself, Emma, how did you manage that, being so far away from where you were looking to do that apprenticeship? How did you manage that?
So I went through a lot of different recruitment processes because I think I had about 20 apprenticeship applications on the go when I did it. So there is quite a diversity in them, and I'd say definitely make sure you understand what the recruitment process is for the specific company, because they do vary. There's like for university, there's one consistent approach, whereas for apprenticeships, it's kind of company dependent on what they want to do. Generally, I applied for most of my apprenticeships on the government Find an Apprenticeship website, or it directed me to the other website that I needed to apply on. So generally this was kind of a paper-based application, so kind of did ask some information on like what your qualifications were, predicted grades, but then also kind of why you were looking at doing the job role, maybe your strengths, and kind of hobbies and interests, and kind of examples such as that. And then kind of there would obviously be an element of profile matching within that. It is a application process. So then I kind of proceeded on. For some companies, they would have kind of intermediate steps in the middle. So for example, like psychometric tests. I hate psychometric tests with a passion. There is a lot of information about them online though, which I'm sure you can learn about. For some of the bigger companies, they want to kind of really kind of get down the numbers of people that have applied. However, at Pfizer, I didn't have that kind of step, and some of the other companies that I went to didn't have that step. So I went straight to kind of a proper interview with Pfizer. However, I know now their recruitment process has a video interview first and then moves on to the full interview. So the video interview, basically you kind of get fired questions, but it's not a two-way dialogue, similarly to we are at the moment for the people watching. It's not a two-way dialogue, you're just kind of talking at the screen. And then I proceeded to kind of a full day's worth, so an assessment centre day, which had some kind of group exercises, lab tours, and then the individual interviews. However, now I think it's kind of just one interview and maybe lab tours. I know COVID has changed the format quite a lot at the moment, so I don't really know what they'll go back to afterwards, but the actual interview was very similar from company to company, kind of focused on obviously applying to an apprentice. They don't expect you to have all the experience of the job, so albeit work experience and demonstrated research really help you, they're not fully expecting kind of your work experience to show that you can already do the job. But I'd say with that, another thing that I did when I applied to apprenticeship, so I tried to be really proactive. So I just like sent emails out to all the top 20 pharmaceutical companies in the UK. I think I got a response from about 12, which was surprising, just to talk about whether they had apprenticeships, what was on offer. A lot of them didn't have apprenticeships, but were really kind in discussing, like, if you go and do your degree at university, here's what you could do afterwards. But it was a kind of really great communication just to kind of discuss. And sometimes I just discuss my CV with them and they'd go, it would be really great if you read this to like improve your CV. So I would definitely say be proactive, or if a company just hasn't considered employing an apprentice before and they think, oh yeah, like it would be great to employ an apprentice, and then decide to do it. So definitely like reach out, try and be proactive just to see what opportunities are on offer, because you never know. And if you don't get anything out of being proactive, you haven't lost anything, but you stand to gain a really good career.
And I think it's a really good point. And I think what today's whole session about is to inspire in one way or another. And I think you can inspire people to take more ownership over applications and understanding the depth of those applications, because they are very different from apprenticeships to that standard university course, the comparison you made earlier. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to invite Rosie to just turn her camera back on and unmute herself. And I know we've got the lovely Chloe as well, who's got some questions that she'd like to ask you. So Chloe, if you're happy to unmute. There you are.
Hello. Yes. Thank you both, Emma and Rosie. They're really good presentations. So just got a couple of questions which are aimed at both of you, so feel free to both kind of jump in and answer. The first one being, obviously the theme of today is inspire. So for both of you, who would you say is your role model and why? Who inspires you to do what you do?
I have to say that a lot of my role models come from where I work. There are some fantastic female partners that have taken part in International Women's Day events before, and they are really inspirational, because the legal industry now has come so far to what it used to be, and the difficulties that we face as women in the legal industry now is just nothing compared to what they had to do to fight to become partners now. So I'd say some of the people that I work with are so knowledgeable, just the best people to work with. So yeah, they're my role models.
Great,
I think for me, with role models, I kind of have some kind of inside my company and some outside of my company. So in terms of inside my company, there are so many scientific experts. I think I really look up to the kind of high level of knowledge, particularly where people have got a lot of publications, and particularly interested in where people have that kind of element of expertise. So for example, for some people it might be like computational chemistry and things like that. So I really look up to kind of the specialisms that people have to try and develop where I want my own specialisms to be, which is a bit of a work in progress at the moment, but we're kind of trying to progress towards being an expert in the future. And outside, obviously scientifically, I read a lot of publications externally from universities. So I look up to a lot of the kind of external academics and professors, which are publishing really incredible work. But one thing I'd kind of like to highlight in terms of with an apprenticeship, if you do decide like after you still have the same degree, if I wanted to go and do my PhD afterwards, so I do look up to academics and I would really love to do my PhD. Just because I've done an apprenticeship, that doesn't mean that that's not an option for me. That's still something that I can go and do, because I'll still have the facilitating qualification to get into a PhD if I wanted to. So yeah, I definitely look up to a lot of the scientific leaders within my company, but also externally, a lot of the professors that are doing great research. And it's great to read and kind of try and figure out my own ideas for research, particularly when it comes to the dissertations.
Great, thank you both of you. So again, another question: do you have a mentor, or is there a mentor support scheme that you have in your place of work to help support you through your apprenticeship, but also learning the job?
I'm happy to go first again. Yes, I have loads of different support networks. So when you join Encrypt, and I'm sure this is the same for many businesses, I have a line manager who manages the whole of the apprenticeship and me and my workload. As well as that, I have a supervisor within the team that I'm working. So my line manager doesn't directly know what I'm doing day to day, but my supervisor does, and they can allocate work and things like that. On top of that, we have fantastic HR support. So we have a designated HR person for all the apprentices at the firm. And with BPP University, we also get an apprenticeship manager who can look at things from the university and the academic side, and they're really good at talking to each other so that they don't feel like separate entities. You know, the BPP University talk to CRIPS and vice versa. So yeah, loads and loads of support, and not only that, but colleagues as well. They're all really interested in the apprenticeship program, and they're really good at knowing what we need to do in terms of outcomes and, you know, getting stuff for our portfolio. They all take an active role in helping us. So yeah, definitely feel supported from all angles.
Great.
So I'd say for me, kind of very similar. There is a lot of support. So obviously I have my supervisor at work. So kind of my supervisor, we focus on kind of my progression. So at the moment, for example, we're doing my individual development plan, and we kind of focus on my yearly or kind of semester goals, so every 6 months. There's also kind of a number of other mechanisms to get support. So for example, if there are kind of, I will just try and reach out to people if there's stuff I want to know. If I'm interested in a particular thing, for example, I would say I'm quite interested in machine learning at the moment, I can just go and reach out to people to see what they're doing with that. There are some more formal systems in place as well. So I know in the past, Pfizer does have a mentoring and coaching scheme. So sometimes the lines between mentoring and coaching can get a little bit blurred. I think coaches are supposed to ask you powerful questions so that you make decisions without them directly telling you what to do, whereas mentors are kind of using their own experience to kind of inform you. So I have had a coaching relationship before, however it started verging a lot on a mentoring kind of relationship. So there are lots of kind of formal avenues to have that, as well as kind of the more informal routes, which is, I'd like to know about this, can you please help me understand some more about this, if you want to. And then obviously every apprentice would have their supervisor. My supervisor is slightly different to my team leader, so I work in the screening group. So my screening group lead used to be the same person as my supervisor, but my supervisor is now different and the screening group leader is different. But there's a lot of support that can be offered to you, and obviously the university does have mechanisms to support you as well.
Great, thank you. And just one final question. If you, and I'm sure you addressed, I know you addressed them in your presentations, but if you were to both, based on your industry and I guess you both going through an apprenticeship route, what top 3 skills would you say you use, or for anyone who's looking to take a similar route to you, what 3 skills would you say that you kind of use the most, and sort of suggest that people make sure they get skilled up on, really, if they're taking the similar route to you?
I know I mentioned this in my presentation, but confidence is definitely something that I worked on and still work on to this day. It's not easy to be confident all the time, but it's not just about knowing everything. It's also about being confident to say, look, I don't know this, I need some help, I need some support. And that doesn't mean in any way that you don't know what you're doing, because you're not expected to know absolutely everything as soon as you start. My second one would probably be communication. As we spoke about, it's not easy to be an apprentice. There's so many things that you have to control and have to manage. People's expectations, you can get work from all different areas of the firm. You're talking to clients directly, and I've always been told that you have to communicate with people and manage their expectations, so they're not expecting something from you that you can't deliver. And my last one would probably be time management. Again, it's crucial to succeed in an apprentice, because there's so many things to remember and to juggle. Yes, we've got the support, but ultimately you need to be able to say no to things sometimes if you haven't got the time. I know that it's hard when you really want to say yes to everything and help everyone out. But yeah, managing the time that you have and the time that you need to spend on work or on university stuff is a massive skill that I've definitely used.
Great, thank you.
So I think for me, probably one of my top ones is passion for learning. I still love progressing. I kind of love learning new skills, and particularly in terms of progressing myself to be a scientific expert, there's a lot of things that I want to learn in order to get to that point. So I know for me, like, I try to be really proactive in terms of like being passionate for learning. I'll sign up to a lot of online courses. It's surprising what you can find online nowadays to teach you, even in really specialist fields. So I think passion for learning is something that I try and really carry throughout my kind of day job, and I think it's something that people can show even before you've kind of started your career. When you're looking at apprenticeships, kind of researching into the companies, kind of demonstrating that passion that you really want to be in that job role, I think is something that can kind of really set you apart. I'd say as well, yeah, communication and confidence. So with confidence, for example, albeit I am not as scientifically progressed in my career as other people, it's about being like, you know what, I think we should go in this direction and I'm going to try and forward my view. And it's not always about being right, but it's having the confidence to go, this is where I think we should go, and I'm happy for you to sit there and disagree with me, and we can kind of agree the best route to go. But definitely confidence is something that I've spent a lot of time trying to gain, to kind of not go, this person's 5 grades above me, I shouldn't like say what I think. I think it's about kind of trying to view them as your equal, because I think sometimes it takes a new and fresh kind of person and kind of opinion to actually forward new and fresh ideas. Sometimes people get a bit stuck in the ways of the past, so sometimes you can, I think, almost by questioning why we do it that way, people go, oh, just because we've always done it, and that's kind of not the best kind of precedence for any process. So I think as well, yeah, organisation and timekeeping are obviously the best, and I think those are ones that you can really try and demonstrate as a student if you're looking at progressing your career, because they're things that you can demonstrate through kind of school. If you've got a side job, if you've done any work experience, it's about trying to kind of demonstrate those skills. I consider myself quite an efficient person. I get a lot of feedback that I'm quite efficient, and it's because I try and organize my time quite well. So I think that's a skill that's really worth setting yourself up for when kind of moving into a career. Is definitely something that's really helped me to be on top of my workload.
Great, thank you.
Perfect, thank you very much. Chloe, is that the questions?
Yeah, that's it. Thank you very much.
Perfect. Thank you both ladies so much for joining. And I've got, I'm going to say it, you're definitely inspirational. Not only are you working in fields that people would never expect an apprentice to be in, or at a level that people would expect apprentices to be at, but the way that you speak and the passion for your job is amazing. So thank you so much for attending today's event. And I'm going to move over now and introduce our next speakers. Thank you so much, ladies.
Thank you.
Okay, so now coming up, we have got a couple of recorded videos, but before, I've had a little special request from the Kent and Medway Enterprise Advisor Network to say a very happy birthday to Usha as a member of the team. She is a very inspirational woman herself, so happy birthday, and we hope you're having a lovely day. Now, we're going to move over to a hula hooping artist, Lisa Lottie, and then followed by the former Cancer Research UK's Chief Information Officer and Chair of ADA, the National College for Digital Skills, Tiffany Hall. Thank you very much and enjoy.
My name is Lisa Lottie. I am 35 years old and I'm a circus performer. I am a hula hooping artist and I travel all around the world and I perform my act for everybody. That's my job. I believe that my journey was a little bit different, right? I'm a physical performer, so naturally I probably should have been a kid dancer or a gymnast or an actor or even a singer, anything physical or performative, right? But I wasn't any of those things. I was insecure, I was unphysical. I didn't have any specific hopes and dreams other than just basic survival. I ran away and I joined the circus. I had this super crazy opportunity when I was 21 years old, and so I did. I joined the circus and I had to learn my job on the go. And that's what I did. I believe that the concept of success as a whole is one that by default makes you feel like you aren't good enough. Again. So some people would say that I've been extremely successful in my career, but as an individual, I just constantly keep resetting my bar. Whenever I achieve a goal, I always want more, and as I never feel like I'm good enough. I believe that this is a serious symptom of capitalism and that I personally experience it over and over again. I also believe that expressing this feeling is heavily looked down upon, right? Especially in professional world, we aren't meant to express our insecurities, right? We are made to believe that everyone around us has it worked out. We are meant to project that we are strong, powerful, that we have everything worked out, because that's what professionals do. And especially with social media being so prominent as it is, it's really easy to feel like everyone's got it figured out. You know, again, this is a lie. Most people don't. I never really knew what I wanted to do, and even if I did, I kind of didn't feel like my choices were supported by the society that I grew up in. I was forced at school to take a serious career direction at the age of barely 14 years old. This put enormous pressure on me, and my choice was to actively rebel against that. So I actually quit school at 15 years old, and I worked in retail, and I did a lot of other small jobs. And I kind of did that with pride, knowing that in the end I did choose my freedom rather than choosing a course of study in a subject that I hated while spending money on it that I didn't even have. I don't really think that my impulsive decision of running away and joining the circus was ever a conscious career choice. As like many young women in their 20s, I don't think anyone really took me seriously, and that included myself. I'm sure that my family thought it would be a phase. That being said, you know, my family have always been supportive of my choices, and I'm pretty sure that I made them proud eventually. Have lots of tools in your back pocket, okay? It's essential that you can take a large variety of jobs inside your field. Anyway, you know, if you want to work inside your field, make sure that you can do lots of different things inside of it, right? So I can perform, I can teach, I can perform for a very small amount of people, I can perform for a big amount of people. You know, I've got lots of different, you can throw me into the deep end and I'll make it work. Okay, if you narrow yourself down to just one skill, to one thing tiny little thing that you do really, really well, you will struggle, because, you know, there's nothing wrong with you taking another job to pay your bills, right? Don't let anybody tell you that, you know, if you want to be a writer, you must earn all of your money writing. Okay, you can do another job, earn money that way, spend your time writing, until maybe one day you'll have enough money to just pay your bills writing. You know, again, this is something that is frowned upon. This is something that's shamed. And so don't listen to that. Take another job if you need that. And if you are going to write, make sure you can write lots of different things to pay your bills. And then you have the time to write what you want. For me, currently, it's all about surviving. It's about navigating the pandemic. I can't work as an international hula hoop artist anymore, not right now anyway, not for a long while, and I'm just trying to keep myself busy, emotionally and intellectually, so trying to keep myself stimulated, which is super hard. It's so hard. So I've taken up teaching online. I'm teaching people hula hoops on Zoom. I'm attending film and TV school here in my hometown of Melbourne because I have time. I'm trying to book and sort of schedule the small amount of gigs that do come up, and I'm very lucky to be even able to do that. I'm not making any big future plans until I understand more what the state of our future will be after the pandemic. So this is kind of a really tough question to answer right now in where we are. And we kind of just have to live with it and be in the moment, as much as I sometimes really hate hearing that. Right now, that's very important. Survival skills and trying to feel good. Growing up is bloody tough, okay? Especially as a young woman. You are living in a world that is designed by men, and we are constantly being challenged by them. Our ideas are often dismissed, we are often ignored, we have to work harder to be respected, we are paid less, and on top of that, The vast majority of the consumer market is focused towards selling us things. Okay, it is societally, is that even a word? It is societally drilled into us that we need to be better, that we need to be prettier, that we need to be slimmer, etc. Okay, as a young woman, you must understand that all of your feelings are valid. If you feel unheard, it is very likely that you are not being heard, that you're being dismissed, that you're being ignored. Those instincts that you feel they're there for a reason. If you feel like you're not good enough, it is because our society is set up in such a way that you spend money on making yourself feel better. Okay, so please remember that. That's so important. My advice is that you support women, that you help women out, that you lift them up. Okay, that you are there for them whenever they need you. Not just your family, not just your friends, all women, women of color, women with disabilities, women that are part of the LGBTQIA community, all women, that you listen to them, that you help them out. So important. You must be careful with social media. Okay, don't follow anyone who makes you feel, even if they are close to you, even if they're your mate, if they make you feel like, just don't follow them. Doesn't mean you can't be friends. Just don't follow them, okay? Every moment in your life, we are being bombarded with advertisements, okay? So choose who you follow and surround yourself with people that make you feel good. You are enough. You deserve to feel good. Anyone who tells you otherwise, unfortunately, is lying to you.
Hello everybody, I'm Tiffany Hall and I'm very pleased to be talking to you today, particularly because I grew up in Kent, in Sevenoaks. Anyway, I run the technology department at Cancer Research UK, which is the largest charity in the UK, and I have a team of over 300 people. But by the time you see this video, I'll have left this job. I also chair the board of a college called ADA, which is the National College for Digital Skills, which has sixth formers and apprentices. It's based in North East London, though we're just expanding into Manchester. And the college has a focus on getting more girls and young women into digital and tech careers. So I'm particularly pleased to be doing my part to help with that, as that's something I'm really, really passionate about. Both of these roles are actually more about people than about technology, to be honest. Leading a big department, leading a board of governors, both of those involve using my communication skills and my influencing skills as much as anything else. That said, I'm a bit of a geek. I do like tech. I did maths, further maths, physics and English at A-level. I was very torn about whether to do maths or English at university, but I landed on maths in the end, and that sort of morphed into doing maths with computing. And I went on from university to coding at Shell, the oil company. Did a range of technical jobs at Shell and then went to the BBC for a long time, gradually getting more and more into management as I became more senior until I was leading big teams. When you're looking for a career, I think it's important to look for something you enjoy, something that matters to you, and look for where you feel you will learn and grow the best. So, for example, when I was first applying for jobs in computing, I was looking in the travel industry because travel was so important to me. And I went to Shell because the graduate training scheme was so excellent, but then I found I wasn't very interested in oil. So the move to the BBC was great because I'm much more interested in how video and audio content is made than in how oil is refined. And I'm more interested in how the news is gathered, say, than I am in how petrol is distributed and sold. And I was able to learn loads at the BBC. So think about your interests as well as about your academic subjects. For me personally, I've found I'm motivated by public purpose and societal good. Sounds a bit worthy, I know. When I was looking for jobs after the BBC, I only really looked at public sector jobs and charity jobs. So I talked to Kew Gardens in London, to the charity Save the Children and so on, before I joined Cancer Research UK. And when I leave this job in 2 weeks' time, I'll carry on chairing the board of the college and I'll look for other part-time work. This is my last full-time job, which is very exciting indeed. So all best wishes with your career choices and good luck in your fabulous future careers. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Lisa and Tiffany. We're definitely seeing lots of different opportunities and inspirational women today. And next, I've got the great pleasure of introducing you to Sheryl Corsberg, who's the chair of Kent Construction Excellence, Charlotte, who works for the University of Kent, and Steph, who works for Betteridge Milsom. Each of them are going to tell you about their own career journey and then open up the conversation to answer some of your questions. So do use that chat box, do use that question box. But for right now, over to you, Sheryl. If you can all pop your cameras on and your mics on, and I'll jump off the call.
Thanks, Rebecca. No pressure. I'm a bit worried about Chloe asking the same questions to me after you've finished. Anyway, so if I introduce myself first. So my name is Sheryl Corsberg. I've written down what I'm going to say to you. So at school, quantity surveying was not an option or an occupation that I'd even known about. I decided that I wanted to be an architect because I like technical drawing, and only because my career teacher told me that as a girl I could not go into the construction industry. So there was the red flag to a 16-year-old that gave me the green light to my new career. So leaving school at 16, I went to college full-time to do a BTEC diploma in construction. After 2 years full-time, I left and entered the best industry that anyone could ever ask for. I'd gone to college, wanted to be an architect, and left heading into the quantity surveying world. Numbers were really my thing back then. Did or does anyone know what a quantity surveyor does? I always tell people that we're the accountants of the construction industry. The difference is, instead of watching what our clients are making money-wise and tax avoiding, we see the built environment grow, being able to work on absolutely any project anywhere around the world, because numbers are numbers in any country. I went out to work and continued my education, gaining a BTEC HNC in construction, and then later doing my Chartered Institute of Building exams, focusing on management and surveying. My career has gone in different directions over the years, and this is to accommodate having a family and continuing to work. Both being employed and self-employed as a freelance consultant, I've worked on all sides of the construction realm, as a contractor's quantity surveyor, as a client's quantity surveyor, doing both pre-construction and project work, and as a subcontractor's quantity surveyor, and working with liquidators at the end of a business as well. During my time working, I've had 3 children, and I've taken time out, and I've gone back to where I've been working. I'm working freelance during those times, estimating and measuring final accounts, and I moved into business development after about 20 years as a quantity surveyor, but continually get pulled back to my commercial roots to assist companies. And I think over the last year with COVID, again, I've been pulled back into that, my trade, if you like, because being a business development, events and networking, they just haven't happened over the last year. I got involved with Construction Excellence 7 years ago, and I'm very proud to be the chair for the local Kent Club. We work hard to bring interesting speakers to deliver the message of the Construction 2025 strategy, and I also co-chair the Kent and Victor Chambers Construction Focus Group, which has monthly topical events. A lot of people around the construction world know me for my networking, bringing Building Kent Connections monthly to Canterbury. We travel around, we do events, we go to London, Brighton, France. The world's the oyster, you can go anywhere you like. I'm also the trustee of a local charity, and I use my network of contacts to arrange events, to raise money for great causes. Now my work week is so varied, it never feels like a drag to go to work. COVID has proved to us all how critical the construction industry is. I'm really excited about the next chapter of working as an employment advisor with Munya and his team, and trying to progress and develop the degree apprenticeship courses further. I'm so passionate about getting young people into the industry, boys and girls, and dispelling the myth that this is not just a job for the boys. This industry is far too male, pale and stale. Construction is certainly not about muddy boots and builders' bums. So, follow that, Steph. So, let me introduce to you 2 fantastic colleagues that I work with. Stephanie Harris from Betteridge Milsom. I'll let you introduce yourself, Steph, and then Charlotte, and then we'll do some questions and bits and pieces.
Sure, thanks, Cheryl. That was a really great introduction there, and I totally agree with a lot of what you were saying. My name's Steph. I work as the practice manager for Betteridge Milsom. I started in construction about 10 years ago now. I actually have a bit of family history. My dad's a quantity surveyor in the industry. However, it wasn't on my mind when I was going through school and doing my GCSEs and A levels. Although a bit like Cheryl, I thought I wanted to be an architect when I was 10. I think it was obviously quite an appealing thing when you're younger to think about designing buildings. I actually ended up going to University of Kent and studied a degree in management science, which is a bit of a niche subject in business. I really liked the idea of business and also about people management. However, when I came out, it was just after the recession of 2008-2009, and I was looking to wanted to work locally. I didn't want to go up to London to work. I wanted to stay in Kent, and I just happened to stumble across a role for a bid writer's position, a junior bid writer at a construction company, and that involved writing documentation and submitting tenders to win new work for the company. And I was fortunate enough to get that role as my first job. And since then, I've expanded my role. When I left my first position, I then went into to do bids and marketing. So I expanded into the marketing side, which is where I met Cheryl a few years ago now. And since then, I've always been interested in people management, and I was fortunate enough to be given the opportunity to do some human resource work at that role. Since then, I've now moved into my current position where I am a practice manager. So it encompasses both marketing and HR, but also business development and just general office business management, which is something that I really enjoy and is probably my calling, to be honest. So my role here is to tell you that construction is a fantastic industry. It's wide ranging. It involves those roles that Cheryl spoke about, quantity surveying, architecture, but it also needs those people in the office to help run businesses as well. So if you going back to some of the young ladies earlier, law, construction law is a massive part of the industry, and we still need accountants and all those lovely people that help to make business move and business work. I certainly enjoy the part of my role where we have 2 apprentices in the business. We also have 2 people at university who are studying QS degrees, and it's fantastic for me to see them on their journeys and help them into becoming the best QSs that they can be. And first, it's the first step in a long career in construction for them. So I'll pass over to Charlotte now, and she can tell us a little bit more what she does.
Hello, yes, I'm Charlotte Ifill. I work at the University of Kent, which keeps popping up all throughout this presentation, which is quite nice actually. I work in the estates department as a project manager, and I work with construction projects, refurbishment projects, alterations to buildings, a nice varied amount of works for students and academics here at the university. And I started my journey into the industry as an apprentice carpenter. So I've had an exciting journey throughout my career, continuing this with the University of Kent, which is great. They've been a great support to me, and I like to work hard for them to achieve more and more every day in my career, and it never ends. I've got into my industry by going to college. It took me a long time to get an apprenticeship. Back then, because I'm a little bit older now, it was very, very difficult. You had to write letters and send them by post. You didn't really have email, and it was full of disappointment when I didn't even get a response. But luckily this opportunity came up, and I've done well ever since, so that's great.
Thank you, Charlotte. When you say you had to post, when I started, they didn't even have fax machines, so there's no way that you're old at all. One of the things we'll talk about, and obviously you're working at the University of Kent, and you've just been involved in the Kent and Medway Medical School,
Yes.
Which Dixon have built. And we did some fantastic work through Constructing Excellence in developing some videos.
Yes.
There are 8 videos which are a free resource to anybody on the call, to any teachers, to any careers advisors. And basically those 8 videos go through the construction of the whole of the process of these schools. I can't share them with you here, but if you go onto YouTube and search Construction 186, those 8 videos are a free resource for anyone to use. basically what they do is that they explain, I mean, when we say Construction 186, we're talking about the number of opportunities that are available within construction. As Steph said, you know, construction lawyers and material buyers and accountants, carpenters, bricklayers, all of those things are available within the construction industry. And what those videos do, they highlight the different roles that are available from the very beginning, before a job is even started on site, with the planning, right through to the maintenance and demolition at the end of a building's life. So please go on to there. They are a free resource. Emma, who spoke earlier, thank you for your analogy about the brickwork. I thought that was fantastic. I'm just going to say that that second brick wall would never stand up. It would just fall over. If you've never built Lego, you'll know that, but that's another thing. But one of the things with Charlotte is you started off as a carpenter, Charlotte, and you know, this is a career for life, construction. You can start life as a carpenter, you can go on, as you have, to project management, you can move on to managing director. You know, you don't have to stop and start. I've been lucky to be quantity surveyor, doing business development, doing bid writing, like Steph says, estimating, surveying, lots and lots of different roles. And construction is like that. You can actually do absolutely anything within the industry, and they are very, very accommodating and want people to do that. So let me ask you, Charlotte, why did you change from carpentry to project management? What made you move along?
I didn't want to have a bad back and sore knees when I got older, if I'm honest. I loved carpentry, and I've still got all my tools. I can't give them up. They sit in the garage. I really, really enjoy the practical side of construction, but I equally love the project management side. But for my own personal reasons, without doing your job properly and efficiently all the time, at every stage when you are on the tools, it can give you dodgy knees. And I didn't want
I know. My husband's a bricklayer, and he says he can still, even through what's happened with COVID, he could still get out his rusty bucket of tools and still go back out to work. So a trade is a trade, and you can continue with it for the whole of your career if you want to. But you can move on and do other things as well.
Yeah, and the skills you learn from those trades, they transfer into the next stage. You know, it's the knowledge I've gained from carpentry and I use in my everyday skills now is unbelievable.
Exactly. And one of the things that we picked up on as well is, I mean, I know, Steph, you have some degree apprentices at your place, and it's about people earning and learning. It's not about having to go to university. One of the misconceptions that I've heard as an enterprise advisor is that somebody wanted to be an architect, but they wasn't bright enough to go to university. But you don't have to go to university to do these jobs anymore, do you? You can do them through the degree apprenticeship courses.
Yeah, certainly. And I think that, you know, our two apprentices, one is 21, one's 19, and both of them decided that university wasn't quite for them full time, but they still wanted, as the girls were saying earlier, they still wanted to come out with that kind of knowledge and that capability at the end. And I think construction is a great place to do earning and learning. That theory and that practical nature of the built environment, it really lends itself well to apprenticeships, and our guys are flying, and they get the opportunity to also have a professional qualification at the end of their apprenticeship, which is fantastic, and it's actually a shorter and quicker route to that than some of the other people that might come in after university as a graduate. So they get the kind of best of both worlds. They get to earn and learn, apply their theory, and come out of it with a professional qualification at the end.
I think as employers, if we know somebody's been working for 4 years rather than being at university for 4 years, we're much more likely to take them on because they know the role, they know they need to get up every morning and go to work. I think they're committed more to doing what they need to do. What are the things you look for in an apprentice, Steph?
I think the girls summed it up absolutely brilliantly earlier, and that those kind of those skills, the organisation, time management, passion is crucial. I think if you're working in the construction industry, a desire to see those buildings at the end and wanting to understand how they come about is really crucial. Those girls showed real passion for their subjects, and I think people that work in our industry show the exact same. That's really critical for us. And as you say, Sheryl, you don't necessarily have to be amazing at what you think you need to be amazing at. So to be a QS, yes, enjoying numbers is actually really as important as being capable of using them, because we can teach you how to do that. And I think that's really crucial for people to understand.
I think so as well. And I think one of the things that is difficult for careers advisors and parents and teachers to understand about construction is it's very difficult to have some work experience within our industry, you know, obviously with the health and safety laws. But I think one of the great things that we could do is we could bring those careers advisors into our offices, onto our sites, and show them what is available. You know, it's all right teaching one child what work experience is available, but why not teach the careers advisors, and then they can take that back to school and show so many more people what is available. It's like teaching one person, like teaching one man to fish, or teaching 100 people to fish. I think it's a good way to actually show what we do and what we're all about. And,
yeah,
and the videos do that as well, if they're, you know, if they can be shown. And it's a shame, it's not a shame the kids have gone back to school, hurrah. But what it is, to be able for them to see what we do, to use those in those career lessons, I think will be a great way of highlighting what is available in construction. So just very quickly, tell me what your typical day looks like, Charlotte.
Well, this morning, for example, at 8 o'clock, I was straight out on site surveying with a few different colleagues. So I was with a grounds maintenance manager, another building surveyor, and a health and safety manager, all just basically to have a conversation about several projects, because we all had different opinions. So it's very interesting when you're working with people in the industry. I had one opinion, another person had a different, and we had to come to a conclusion that worked for everybody whilst not compromising the end result of what the project would be. So we do a lot of problem solving in my job. I've got to write a specification this afternoon, and then I'll do some site visits. So I've got a very nice balance of being in the office and being out on site. I love talking to people, and I get to do that on a daily basis in my job, and it's varied. It's great.
Never boring.
No. No.
And you never know what each day is going to bring. And yourself, Steph, as well as a practice manager, obviously there are lots of different roles within your day-to-day as well. I remember seeing on LinkedIn a couple of weeks ago, or a week or so ago, about the 10 different things that you'd had to do during the course of one day.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, even today, I've started off my day doing a bit of bid writing, which is a bit unusual for me at the moment, but it's been quite nice to get back to that. Obviously, it's lovely doing all of this with you guys at lunchtime, and then this afternoon it's business strategy. So it really does vary from day to day. And I think even actually I had a call first thing this morning about training for some of the staff. So yes, it's very varied, and it's such a fantastic role to be a part of. And I just shows that, yeah, like you say, 186 different roles. There's something for everybody.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that we look at when we talk to the young people is find something that you like doing. Find I mean, Steve Jobs said, find something you like doing, and you'll never work another day in your life, because what you enjoy doing is what you'll do. I don't know if Chloe and Rebecca are going to come back in and ask us some questions, but it was interesting when Chloe was asking about the inspiration and the mentoring. I don't know if they're coming back.
Yes, we are.
Yeah,
I was just waiting for my step in. So Chloe, have we got some questions, my dear?
Yes, we do.
Questions that you asked the others, Chloe. You asked me the same things.
It's all right. There's a few different ones, so don't worry. But the first one I am going to ask, which is similar to what I asked earlier, purely because of the theme of the week and the theme of today about inspiring. Who is it that inspires you? Who has been your role model, and who inspired you to get to where you are today?
For me, I wrote that down, and I mean, I'm much older than everybody else, and so I was at college in 1984, before most of you were even born. And my inspiration was Margaret Thatcher and the Queen, because they're two women and they had the highest jobs in the land. And when somebody told me I couldn't be an architect because I was a girl, I thought, up yours. That's exactly what I'm going to do now. You can't tell me that there's a Prime Minister of England and the Queen of England can't do their job because they're a woman. So for me, they were my inspiration. Sorry, that's it.
For me, actually, when I was at school, it was actually my my business studies teacher that really inspired me. I'd never considered going into business. I was actually going to do geography at university, although that is kind of a segue into construction on its own. But she really inspired me with just the kind of the world of business, and she did this fantastic assembly where she kind of sold what business means to the world. And I think you know, everything we do is built around running businesses and how you can run your own business. And I think in construction that is so achievable. So she was definitely an inspiration to me when I was younger.
But my inspiration is actually my parents. I know it's a bit cliche, but it really is. When I started getting into the industry, my parents didn't want me to go into the industry, but supported me fully throughout the whole of the process, and still do now. And you know, always tell me how proud they are of me, and especially as like you, Sheryl, I would come up against people saying, well, you're never going to get a job doing that because you're a girl. And I did have those battles, but all it did, the same as you, Sheryl, I was like, well, no, I'm definitely going to get it now. Even if I don't want to do it, I'm going to do it.
Tell me I can't do it, and that's exactly what I'm going to do. Yeah.
But yeah, my parents were my inspiration and are still.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you. So Sheryl, you just mentioned there actually about having mentor support schemes, and if you have a mentor, is that something that within your roles you found that you've had in your careers, that you've had that one person or a mentor throughout your career that you can maybe still go to today?
At my age, most of them have retired, to be honest. I have found it really difficult to find a mentor, to be honest. And I find myself being that mentor quite often for quite a lot of people. I do a lot of reading, but my peers are my mentor, people that are doing the same thing as me, and then we bounce each other's ideas off each other. It's not something that I could easily answer as a specific, but my peers really. Yeah.
For me, when I first started, I had a supervisor and a manager who were both very supportive, and actually I worked with my manager for about 7 out of the 10 years I've been in the industry, and he was very supportive in encouraging me to take opportunities, and I think that's really important. I wouldn't be in the role I was in now had I not put my hand up, and he allowed me to, or encouraged me and helped me into kind of taking on different responsibilities and taking those opportunities. So we certainly at my company have mentors for our apprentices and our graduates, and we work, myself and my director work with them to kind of help them with their training and their growth. And I think that is really important to kind of help young people into an industry that can be quite daunting, especially for young women. And from a construction perspective, I really have always enjoyed spending time with the other ladies in construction we do really help each other. And you know, when you walk into a room at a networking event, and I know the girls will agree with me that it's just a lot of men in suits, it can be quite terrifying. So that the network that we have amongst ourselves is so important from a mental perspective as well.
Male, pale and stale stuff. And within the Kent Invictus Chamber, we run a Kent Women in Construction, and there are a number of groups that we, some are more social than others, some are professional and some are more social. So but we do work together and we do help each other. That is one of our things that we do quite regularly. Great. What about you? What about Charlotte?
I think it's the same as you. It's my peers. I'm quite chatty at work, so it's not that I don't need a mentor. I think I'm so open. If I've got a problem, everybody kind of knows about it at the same time. And very loud. But we do have mentor schemes here at the university, and should I ever need that, I've always got that avenue where I could branch out and request it. And we have it all for the apprentices. We put them into sessions immediately to offer them that if they want it as well. And some people do take it up and others don't. But yeah, my colleagues are great. I've got a great team around me. I go to events like Construction Excellence, and I know that I could probably phone any one of them up and go, right, I've got a problem here, and they would help me, which is great.
I think being women in construction, we need to be quite ballsy, to be honest, and we actually bounce ideas off of each other. You know, we're not wallflowers. We really have to stand our ground and be heard. And it's one of the things about construction. You know, you are equal. You know, you're not there because you're a woman. You're there because you're equal. Nobody deserves to be there any less than you do. Just because of your gender doesn't mean you shouldn't be there.
Definitely. Great, thank you. So one of the other questions I've got here is, I suppose more towards yourself, Sheryl. I know you've been into construction from the age of 16. How has the industry changed from when you first started to now with regards to engaging women in the industry?
We've got computers.
I know you kind
now.
of touched upon. Sorry.
We didn't have computers then.
Oh.
Somebody asked me this the other day, actually, and I said, there's not a lot of change, really, although there are now toilets for women on site. There never used to be. You have to be equal, like I say. You have to not be subservient. You are there because, do you know what? You're there because you're better than the person that you're there with. You know, sometimes a man is in a role because he's a male in construction. I've often found that you have to be better to be there in the first place. I mean, I can't tell you a day where I've never loved working in construction, and I can't imagine ever doing anything else, to be honest. And I'm really excited about working with you and with Munya and Rebecca and working with young people and showing them how interesting and exciting the construction industry is. Just listen to people and learn. Every day is a school day. You know, if you're not learning something every day, then you're not living. You really, you know, and there's so many changes in construction. You know, a brick wall is a brick wall, but it's done differently. Every single day is a school day. Every single thing that you do can be done differently. You know, everybody was working leaner. We can work with computers. We can work with programs. Everything is done with the aspect of making it to be done cheaper, more effectively, more smarter, those kind of things. I'm not sure if I answered your question there, Chloe. Sorry about that.
No, you did. No, thank you very much. So you've actually answered some of the other questions I have on my page, so I won't ask you them now. But yeah, that's great. So I guess to all of you, with regards to your own roles and where you sit within construction, it's not a straightforward answer, so just maybe some guidance. So if you've got any young people watching who are maybe in year 8 or 9 or looking to take their options, or maybe about to finish school and looking at the post-16 options, based on kind of the roles that you do, what sort of subject areas, what sort of areas could you advise young people to maybe look towards to help support them moving into that career path, if that makes sense?
Look at what they enjoy doing. You know, there is a role in construction for anybody, because if you look at what you enjoy doing, if you enjoy art, if you enjoy maths, if you enjoy geography, if you enjoy, you know, design, absolutely anything, English, you know, there is a role within construction that you can do. Find something you enjoy doing and just carry on doing it and work well at it. I mean, I don't know if you agree, girls, if that's, you know, the same thing. You know,
yes, certainly. Yeah.
If you want to work with your hands, you know, Steph said, if you like bid writing, you know, there's so many things that you can do.
Yeah, I think I certainly agree with Sheryl there, and I think that having, you know, depending on, if you've got an idea in mind of what you want to do, I think for example, something like my role would, you know, the joys of kind of working in kind of business management is that I mean, business studies is the obvious choice, but actually most subjects will allow you to get into a position of admin or business administration apprenticeship or something like that, and then you just kind of learn on the go, and you can then supplement your learning through an apprenticeship or through other means. For our quantity surveyors, obviously we look to kind of, maths is certainly one that, you know, is the obvious choice, but then again we look for people with just more than that kind of skill, and I think it goes back to that passion, as Sheryl says, find something you enjoy doing, and if you want to, you know, speak to companies locally, we welcome people messaging us and asking us about work experience, about opportunities, and I think like we were saying earlier, we will happily go back to them and advise them if that's what they need, and help them on that route. But it's such a tricky one because there's so many roles to enjoy within the industry, but I think anything that you're passionate about, you can then find a role in construction that suits you, like Sheryl said.
And I know this is all about girls can do, but you know what, it's just as relevant to the boys as well. Just as relevant.
And like you just said, Steph, I would advise anyone that could do work experience, speak to people, ask them, you know, even if it's for a couple of days, to sort of go around the offices and see what conversations they're having or what they're looking at from drawing aspects. It can give you an insight to whether you're actually going to enjoy it as well. Because I did work experience, loved it even more, and definitely knew I wanted to go into it. But maybe if I didn't do that, I might have chosen a different route. I don't know.
I think one of the things we did with the work experience, Steph, didn't we, a couple of years ago with the young girl, do you remember, where she went in 5 different companies during the course of a week. So rather than somebody in for the whole week doing something, photocopying, making the tea, she went into an architect's practice, into a quantity surveying practice, onto a building site, into a planning office, those kind of things. And you know, there's so many of us in construction we can help that happen. Yes.
Great, thank you. And then one final question very quickly, just aware of the time. Over the last year, it's been a bit weird. There's been lots of, everyone's had to adjust to how they're working, and lots of different restrictions and things. What would each of you say is kind of one of the biggest learning points for you over the course of the year with regards to with your role and how you've been able to sort of function within your companies?
I've had to learn how to use Zoom. Well, I run networking events, and from was it the 23rd of March? I think on the 27th of March, I normally hosted on a Friday lunchtime in a local pub 70 to 100 people for a networking event, and I had never used Zoom, and we managed, I think, 45, 50 people. I didn't know that 40 minutes was free and that it cut off, so we all cut off and had to come back. but for me, well, that definitely, but that has moved the construction industry on miles and miles. I mean, I'm dealing with people in Glasgow, Nottingham for funding for a project in Hythe that would just never have been able to have been done in these times. And I'm sure Steph and Charlotte would say the same. Project meetings, design meetings, now being done on Teams or on Zoom, has moved the industry on just years, absolutely years.
Yeah. Yes, definitely.
Yeah. Sorry, go on, Steph.
No, I was just going to say I totally agree, and I think from our perspective, from my kind of with my human resources hat on, I think it's about maintaining that collaboration and that communication. You know, we have a mix of staff from junior through to senior, and it's making sure that that we've been able to kind of keep that culture going online. That's been quite tricky, I think, and that the people who are in their apprenticeships and that are still getting the same level of mentoring that they were getting, and that has been quite tricky. We have managed, you know, we've done the quizzes, we've done the online, everything, you know, the same as every other company's done, and we are certainly looking forward to getting back together soon to do some stuff in person, like all of us are, I think. But we know going forward, as Sheryl said, that there are things that we can now do at home that we weren't able, that we didn't think we were able to do, but we certainly can. And I think we will save a lot of time going forward. You know, traveling and all that time will be saved, and we will become a more efficient industry.
Yeah, definitely. And we can have cocktail meetings now in real.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
how about
the
yourself,
only-
Charlotte?
Yeah, no, the only thing I would say I've found difficult is construction meetings online, and when you're on site physically walking around with the engineers, the site managers, you lose a little bit of that conversation that you would normally have when you're on site physically, and that I think will always happen in the future. I think it's good that we can have sort of pre-construction meetings, design meetings, probably a lot of that online, but the construction meetings would need to continue on site because you physically need to be there. And I struggled during that when we were doing projects, because I'm having to video call somebody whilst I'm on site going, well, have a look at this, you know, what is it doing? Why is it doing that? And then they're going back to a drawing. That's where I struggled.
But that can improve, Charlotte, can't it? Because with
Yes.
what with 3D and all of the VR sets and everything else now, I think that will improve again with the industry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you very much. Back over to you, Rebecca.
Okay, thank you so much, ladies, for attending and for your lovely inspiring words and your career journeys. We definitely know that they're going to be hitting someone at home, so thank you so much.
Thanks for having us.
So that brings us to the end of the broadcast today. It's been a massive honour to be hosting the Kent and Medway Enterprise Advisor Network International Women's Week. Next year, can you make it a shorter title? And don't forget, the theme for today is inspire. Work hard, focus on what makes you happy, and think about those who inspire you in your own lives. Thank you to all of the contributors today. We will be posting more inspirational videos throughout the day on the Kent and Medway Enterprise Advisor Network LinkedIn page and through the Instagram, and this will be found on the new Wow TV YouTube channel. The links are on the screen now. Make sure you join tomorrow for another day of inspiring contributors from the world of work. Tomorrow's broadcast will be live from 9:30 till 11 AM. If you have any questions, please contact the email address I'm about to read out, which is the Kent and Medway EAN@theeducationpeople.org. Thank you so much for attending, and we'll see you soon. Thank you very much.